Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of A Fistful of Collars. I've been having trouble saying that the last couple of days. I don't know what it is. I've had a cold, my sciences are playing up, and everything comes out like a fistful of collars. A Fistful of Collars, the FloGrappling podcast, the one that you like. Every single week here from the FloGrappling HQ studio, myself, Howell Teague, Reed Connell, and Chase Smith at the table.
What's up,
here
guys?
And Chase Smith.
Dissect
As
some
always.
of the current affairs, the goings on, and to talk about some cool stuff that's been happening here at FloGrappling as well, because it's something of the off season right now, right? Kind of like, should we say it's like a post ADCC lull, almost. Like the ADCC fever has died down somewhat now, and there's that moment where, you okay there?
It's to come down. I can't lean forward, guys. My shoulder's messed up, so I think I'm just going to be like an interviewer back here.
We're going to make a lot of noise with your mic, so leave it
there.
there. Just lean forward when you can. Cause
Okay.
so maybe we'll get you a special...
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Get you a special headset just for you. What's wrong, Chase? What happened?
Fuck wrestling.
Oh, dear.
That's what happened. Just trying to get that ADCC vibe, keep it going, and I definitely got destroyed and hurt my shoulder.
We're all
That's life.
collectively trying to improve our wrestling.
You guys can speak for
after
yourself.
ADCC, we're like, man, we need some better wrestling.
I'm not wrestling. That shit's hard work.
Yeah. So that's what you found out? It's tough?
Yes, I was reminded. I do this about twice a year, where I'm like, all right, let's try wrestling again. And then I leave home crippled and say, okay, I'm gonna leave that.
Back
for
to
the other
jiu-jitsu
guys.
we go. Yeah.
Indeed. So
It is hard work, right? Like Nicky Ryan was not kidding when he said, wrestling sucks. It is really, really tough.
There's so much like getting down on the floor, then standing back up, and then going down on the floor again, and then standing back up, and then like it's just a lot of up and down.
Funny
In
that.
jiu-jitsu, you just go you just lay on the ground.
And just
And you
stay
just, and
there.
you just
come
lay-
into
you just lay
my
on the ground.
guard. Yeah. It's the best. It's why jiu-jitsu is great for lazy people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But wrestling. So what you guys been training wrestling with Mike Mal, right? Mike from the wrestling team here.
that's right. From Behind the Dirt fame, Flow Wrestling standout Mike Mal is our wrestling coach over at Paragon Jiu-Jitsu here in Austin. It's awesome, man, because he's not just a straight up wrestling coach where we have to do everything in a traditional way. He's very tuned into Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, and so we kind of tailor the training to being good at those sports as well.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about Mike, right? He has a lot of experience working with people who came to him looking to add wrestling to, for other reasons. So, for example, MMA fighters and so on. So he doesn't just teach you kind of like standard wrestling stuff. Adapts it well for the submission wrestling game, right?
Man, he is good, Mike Mal. Get to wrestle with him, like you said, every week, and he is just like, he's so elusive on the feet, and he's got like perfect position. It's great when you go in with wrestlers who just like are never out of position. It makes me want to do that more. Better.
It's really technical, You look at two guys learning how to wrestle, and it looks as kind of like two wild animals going after it. But Mike doesn't work that hard. He's just in position, as Reed says,
Work smart, not hard.
Makes you go out of position really well with very simple looking movements that are just super technical. It's fun to watch, not so fun to do, I would say.
And of course, Mike hails from none other than New Jersey, the
Dagestan.
Dagestan of the United States of America.
Represents it well, yes.
Such a rich grappling culture there in New Jersey. Those guys, they're brought up rough. They definitely fight their way up from the bottom in New Jersey, right?
I don't know. It's the craziest thing. I feel like we talked about this on the podcast before, but you got like JT Torres is from Jersey. Nicky Rodriguez is from Jersey. The Ryan brothers are from Jersey. Mikey Musumeci is
Gary
from Jersey.
Tonon.
Gary Tonon is from New Jersey.
And a ton of other guys that, just overlooking as well. I mean, Tom DeBlass and his entire
DeBlass.
crew. There's huge associations of people. New Jersey's a big place as well, right? So,
Not as big
what's
as
going on.
It's smaller than California.
True. Those East Coasters, they like to scrap.
Nicely done, Reed. Good fact there.
I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, just make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. But speaking of the Dagestan of jiu-jitsu, it's kind of interesting, right? Because we did this article last week where we looked at Manaus in Brazil, which is the city there in the middle of the Amazonian jungle, right on the banks of the Amazon River, and this incredible city that has produced more jiu-jitsu champions than anywhere else from Brazil. just this incredible lineage of guys going all the way back to like Saulo Ribeiro, Ronaldo Jacare, right through to the current generation of guys like Mateus Gabriel, current world champion, and then others coming through the ranks like Talas and Suarez, Diego Pato, Manuel Hibamar. It's it sounds pretty wild, right? I don't know about you guys. I've never been, because Brazil's huge. So when I lived in Brazil, I was like, Rio de Janeiro, and I used to travel around there. And Manaus is a 4-hour flight from Rio. That's kind of how far it is. It's a big old place. But it seems that there's something in the water there too, right?
Man, just Brazil in general, I feel like. But yeah, I think the Ribeiro brothers are from there.
So I actually remember Saulo and Shanji's dad. I met him one time at ADCC in the hotel one time, and he was telling me that apparently Saulo was born somewhere else, but he was kind of raised in Manaus. I think Shanji was born in Manaus because they moved around a lot with his work. But they pretty much were kind of sort of raised there, and that's where they got their start with jiu-jitsu before they both went down to Rio de Janeiro and started training with Hoyle Gracie at the old Gracie Humaitar and stuff. So
yeah, we hear that there's just like a jiu-jitsu gym on every corner. Chase has talked about it for a while, going down there and doing something in Manaus. I've always wanted to go. Going to Minas Gerais there just a few months ago.
Which currently is like probably one of the best producers for talent as well in Brazil, right? Look at the guys who come out of there.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, Felipe and the big Gracie Baja contingent over there. You have Homolo is from there as well, and Gabriel Arges and Servio Tulio and Felipe Pena. So, yeah, a lot of big Gracie Baja names have come out of Belo Horizonte right there. So, I felt like going to restaurants and stuff like that. I met a couple other jiu-jitsu black belts. I went into just like a random restaurant. We were just trying to find food, and preferably somebody who could speak a little bit of English, because my Portuguese is not very good at all. And this guy immediately came running up to me because I had like a jiu-jitsu t-shirt on, and he was like, "Hey, you do jiu-jitsu?" He like immediately, and he was just this random restaurant owner, and he knew Caesar Casamaggio.
Oh, yeah,
and,
of course.
Caesar's,
Very cool.
Caesar's from Belo Horizonte as well.
Caesar lives in Hawaii now, Caveira, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Yep. So that region is cool, but from what I hear, Manaus is even more densely populated with jiu-jitsu. He's even more kind of has a more storied history in the jiu-jitsu.
Well, they say there's nothing else to do there. That's what Shanji and Saulo always have told people is like soccer's not as big, like football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. It's not a big deal out there, and they just fight. It's just a combat sports kind of place.
I heard as well that in Manaus they have like a kind of their own tournament, because Manaus is not a rich city either. So the guys from Manaus, very few of them managed to make it out, and that includes even going to other places inside Brazil, because I remember once I was looking at it out of curiosity. I think there was a tournament in Manaus I was considering going to, and I checked, and the flights were actually really, really expensive, and I ended up not going. But I've heard that it's tough for the guys to get out of Manaus to go to other places to compete, because most of the big tournaments are held in like Rio, Sao Paulo, places like that, right? And apparently when they have like the local tournaments in Manaus, they get like 3,000 guys show up to compete. It's huge. Like the sport is really, really big there. But yeah, you'd go there and you probably wouldn't recognize 99% of the guys who are competing, but they're all murderers. They're all absolute killers.
Yeah, we were telling Eduardo tell us about our idea to go out there, and he didn't think it was a very good idea.
He laughed at us like, "Why would you do that to yourself?"
He didn't love the idea.
I heard that Manaus is not a bad place. There are good and bad parts everywhere in Brazil, and you can from one block to the next, but Manaus is definitely on the rougher end of the scale in terms of Brazil. It's less. It's a big city of like 2 or 3 million people, but it's definitely a little bit less developed and less cosmopolitan. So if you went as a gringo, especially, you'd stand out. And our own Ricardo Amendolia, actually, I believe, holds the distinction for being the first ever gringo to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament in Manaus.
Oh, that's so badass.
And
I believe it
win.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it was when he was like a blue purple belt, something like that. So it's pretty cool.
That's dope. So is he basically from Manaus now?
Pretty
like
much, yeah.
Manaus?
Well, he has family there now as well, so that's really cool. He's been back and forth to train there a lot. But you look at the guys who came out of Manaus, and like I say, Ronaldo Jacare, Ari Farias is from Manaus. Talas and Suarez. He's poised to do big things at black belt.
Got Hibamar in there.
Yeah, Hibamar is from Manaus, and
Diego Pato.
Yeah, this I'm blanking real quick because there was one other big name I was going to mention. Of course, we mentioned Mateus Gabriel, who just won the black belt world title this year at Worlds 2019 IBJJF World Champion.
Is Miguel Galvão out of
That's
Manaus.
it. That's what I was going to say. So thank you, Chase, for queuing me up. So Michael Galvão, let's call him Michael. Michael Galvão is the 16-year-old juvenile blue belt, or maybe 16-year-old blue belt, whose dad actually, Mikey Galvão, is running or has run a very, very strong team there in Manaus for a long time. And jiu-jitsu's in the family. I believe that he has a daughter that trains as well, and his daughter spent a lot of time training and living with Cabrinha in Los Angeles. She's a little bit older, but Michael coming through the ranks, and he held the distinction of, much like some other standout juveniles we've seen, like guys like Roberto Jimenez and people like that he became notorious because he actually beat black belts while he was still a color belt teenager. I think he was maybe still a green belt or had just got his blue belt, was 15, and he actually tapped out a black belt. And they put out a call. It was Copa Podio in Brazil. They tried getting a black belt to face off with Galvão because Galvão has just destroyed pretty much every kid who's been put in front of him, because it's just he's that far ahead of everybody else, So they were like, okay, let's get him some tough matches, and nobody wanted to fight him because it's like, well, it's a lose-lose situation. If I go out there as a black belt and I beat this 15-year-old blue belt, of course I'm supposed to do that, but if I lose, I'm going to look really, really bad. So one black belt, credit to him, I don't know who he is or his name, but I guess a local guy from Manaus stepped up and he took the match with Michael and he got armbarred. But I guess pride kicked in and he didn't want to tap out to a blue belt, so he got his arm broke. Michael Galvão broke his arm. Disgusting.
Ultimately, a worse outcome than just tapping, I would say.
You know, the crazy thing that has recently been announced is that, so we've mentioned about how nobody wants to fight this kid. So Copa Podio put out a call and they found somebody to take him on. A black belt from Dagestan.
Yes.
The actual Dagestan. Not the American Dagestan, not the Brazilian Dagestan, the Dagestan of Dagestan. And this guy's name is...
I bet there is a Dagestan of Dagestan.
It probably is.
Don't go there.
His name, I got to get this right now, is Magomed. Of course it is. It's Magomed. Oh, man. It's a tough one to pronounce. Let me make sure I'm getting it right.
Is that a photo of him with a lion in his lap?
Yes, it is. It's a photo of him with a lion cub in his lap.
I'm a big fan of this guy already.
Yeah, I know, right?
Classic lion cub.
Abdul Kadirov Magomed, or Magomed Abdul.
These are just things you gotta do when you go to Dagestan.
I guess so. Yeah. Let me see if I can. Can you see that, guys? Get that right there. That is
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Cute. For now. Yeah. That's just an average house cat in Dagestan. People have like lion cubs and stuff. So Magomed, Abdul Kadirov Magomed is. Or however you say his name, is, he's actually legit as well. He's an ADCC veteran. I remember he competed 2015 ADCC in Brazil. Beat Ben Henderson.
Tough.
And then lost to Eddie Cummings, I think. But, yeah, no, super tough. Incredibly tough. But, yeah, nobody else wanted to take on that 15-year-old, so they had to fly a guy in from Russia to do it.
Man, these, we talk about it a lot, but, yeah, I wouldn't want to fight any of these 15-year-olds coming up either. There's so many these days that have just been doing it for so long that just look like absolute killers out there. And yeah, Michael's definitely one of those guys who's just buzzsawing through whatever belt you got on your waist. These
kids are scary nowadays, right? Any kids in particular you guys kind of been watching lately?
Okay, that puts you on a list right there, Hal, that phrase. But for me, we've been big fans of Cole Abate for a long time. He's from Texas, and I moved out to go train at AOJ. And
good move,
those
right?
Guys, yeah, I mean, they have one of the best youth squads anywhere in the world, you could say, and they're really, really devoted almost to building up, young athletes, and I think it's a smart move. But he's just a killer. He finishes everyone. That's the one thing I love about a lot of these young athletes that we're talking about, is maybe it's because there is maybe a disparity in competition, but they all finish people relentlessly. It's not like they're playing, strategy and tactics out there. That they're just killing everyone. So that makes it fun to watch.
Got a really good profile piece on him and the new face of AOJ who came in around the same time, and that's Gustavo Ogawa. And these are the new pet projects from Guy Mendez, the two green belts that he's just got his hands on them now. They're kind of in the gym with him full time, and he's ready to mold them into fearsome competitors and unleash them on the jiu-jitsu world.
Look how Tynan and Mateus and Jonathan have turned out.
There you go, exactly.
Well.
Yeah, the results speak for themselves, right?
But you're gonna say we're talking about blue belts fighting black belts. We got this crazy one coming up here pretty soon. All right, I think this is official.
It is official. We can talk about it. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You got Ty Rotolo versus
of course.
Wagner Hosha, talking about blue belts fighting black belts. That one kind of blows my mind. Big ups to Wagner for taking that one, because like Seth said, I'm sure he had a hard time finding somebody to step on the mats with Ty, especially after his performance at ADCC.
Can you believe that? That is sorry, I cut you off, but can you believe that there's like an over 20-year age gap in that match?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I feel like people are forgetting ADCC. It was just a month ago, and it's like,
Right.
why has this match been made? Why is this happening? Ty almost broke Paulo Meow's leg. Like,
Yep.
he's game. He's
Yeah.
really, really damn good.
He had Kennedy and Paulo in the deep DAS chokes as well, right?
Exactly. This is no
Beat Bruno
cakewalk for
Frazano.
Wagner.
He beat the Pablo Mantovani.
Bronze medalist,
Yeah.
ADCC bronze medalist in Bruno. So
And he's 16.
16 years old.
Ty is 16 years of age. I'm not sure. Wagner's what, 37, 36, 37? So it's like 20 years age gap right there. Wagner taking silver at ADCC this year. But that is insane that nobody wants to face Ty now, right? After what they saw at ADCC. And yet, this kid is still a blue belt, and as per the regulations, he can't even fight adults yet in open tournaments. He has to go up against other 16-year-olds. Kind of unfair, right?
I feel like Seth backed out of this match. I feel like that he was setting this match up for him and versus Wagner, and then at the final hour he slotted Ty in
Well,
to take his place.
Man, I mean,
Not
like
cool,
Seth himself said that he can't find anybody to fight this kid. Wagner's the only one who stepped up. And
Yeah,
he's
that's
like,
why I said
"I'll
big
take it on."
ups to Wagner, because definitely, of course he doesn't have to take the match or whatever, and I'm sure there's a lot to lose, and I think there's a lot to gain too, but so definitely big ups to him for doing that. He didn't have to. He's a silver medalist.
When's that match happening, Hal?
November
86.
9th in Fight to Win 131 in San
right.
Francisco.
San Francisco too. San Francisco. I've been to that show a couple times. That's a rocking show out in San Francisco. It's usually a lot of fun. We went out to that one, of course, and back in the day, always San Francisco crowd shows up.
Interesting as well, because Ty is a big kid, and he's growing really, really fast. He's like right in the middle of a growth spurt, and he made 66 just, because he was obviously an ADC reservist and came in at the last minute as an alternate, and he struggled to make 66 to compete. But this match is at 77 kilos, because apparently Ty, there's no way that he's going to be able to make 66 again. He's like, well, I mean, you stood next to him, right? You saw how big
He's
he
getting
is.
big. Yeah.
Right.
Man, who knows? 2 years, he could be 88. Like,
Legit,
who
yeah,
knows?
absolutely.
Like he's a big dude.
Yeah. So Wagner as well, of course, he's very famous, right, for those I don't want to call them dirty tricks. People do.
Brutal.
Yes, there you go. Violent jiu-jitsu. You coined it very well one time, right? He's a violent jiu-jitsu evangelist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I like that.
yeah, but Wagner is not a dirty guy. He doesn't do anything outside of the rules. He just tests the limits as far as they can go, right? So he won't do anything that is illegal. And he'll just, he'll make it uncomfortable, shall we say. And, the big question mark is, of course, is he going to hold anything back against somebody like Ty? What do you think?
I don't think so.
He's kind of embraced the bad boy role a little bit. He loves the haters, I think, out there that reject his use of the Python and call him a meanie. I think he likes that, so maybe he will turn on the heat.
It's a part of his game, right? I think just in general, it's cool watching him move through ADCC, because each match, he tries to get you off your game, and he's really good at it, man. He's really good at just kind of saying the right thing when he needs to, or kind of pushing you out of bounds, or talking to the coaches even sometimes between there. He's just so good at getting guys off their game, and I think that's a big part.
But what happens when, or if, let's say, Wagner gets the back, puts on the Python, that body triangle with the hand over the mouth, that smother choke that he does. And let's remember that Ty is 16 years old.
Hey, Ty signed up for it. He knows what he's doing.
Well, but maybe assumed responsibility on his part. But what about everybody else? Is the jiu-jitsu community going to collectively lose their shit when that happens?
I think they'll freak
is Wagner going to get
an
even worse reputation than he already has? Like, what are the ramifications here?
They'll for sure freak out. But I asked those people this, like, that actually doesn't hurt Ty at all. The python is merely uncomfortable, and yeah, it sucks. I've had people do it to me, and it does make you angry in that moment. Like, I hate you. But is it really worse than if Wagner goes for, say, a heel hook, which actually could damage someone's knee? Like, python is strictly attacking your ego. It's not going to hurt you. So I think it's all right.
No, that's a good point. It is a good point. It is not a damaging move, right? It not going to end somebody's career. Speaking of the heel hooks, that was one area that if anything, that there was a hole in Ty's game earlier this year were the leg locks, right? Because he lost at both the East Coast ADCC trials and the West Coast ADCC trials via heel hook, and one of them was pretty bad, right? I remember he got carried off the mat.
East Coast one was pretty bad, yeah. But he was young enough, able to bounce back.
Do you think that he's addressed that in his training? Because we didn't really see any issues there at ADCC, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he didn't really go up against a pure leg locker or somebody with high level leg locks. I mean, Paolo's got good leg locks for sure. But I don't know. Maybe that remains to be seen if he's cleaned that up enough or not. But obviously he looked great at ADCC. He had some offensive leg locks of his own. That picture with Paolo is iconic. Is going to go down in history. But that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure we got the answer to that at ADCC. But.
I mean, Wagner has got leg locks. We've seen him tap people out with leg locks in the past. He's not a leg locker in the traditional sense. He's not one of those hyper focused guys. But he certainly has leg attacks and he's used them. So, but hey, anything can happen, right? Who knows? His
match with Kennedy was super sick too, and I think he was probably seconds away from winning that match if he didn't get caught in the choke there. But that was a really, really great match too, even in defeat.
I love the way the Ty dives on those DAS chokes. I really do. Yeah, he's got pretty long arms for his build, right? So he manages to wrap them up. But moving on from the teenagers and the super fights, and let's talk a little bit about a huge standout moment from last weekend, and that is in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, the BJJ Stars tournament. It was the 8-man invitational tournament. Nicolas Meregali coming out on top, submitting Gustavo Batista in the final with a Kimura, beating along the way Lucas Hulk Barboza and Victor Hugo to win that, putting in our pound-for-pound rankings Meregali as the #1 black belt in the world. Agree or disagree?
First time Buchecha has been dethroned since we had the rankings in place, I believe.
But you didn't answer my question.
I agree.
You agree?
I'm
Why?
with it.
Why? What's the logic behind that? Because, like you say, Buchecha has always been #1 pound for pound in our rankings. So, what was it that put Meregali above him based on that weekend?
Well, I think there's always been an issue of frequency. The rankings are tough because prestige goes a long way. You win worlds, you should be at the top. But Buchecha kind of competes once a year in the gi, really. And he did do a super fight earlier in the year, but it's very, very infrequent. Meregali won worlds impressively with a submission, and you could argue maybe that his performance overall was a little bit more impressive than Buchecha's run at worlds. Obviously debatable, but then he comes out again and just a few months later takes on top competition, wins with submissions, wins convincingly. Why not? Let's shake it up a little bit. Like, to me, you can't just rest on your laurels and be number one by winning one tournament a year. Like, I would like to reward people that are extremely active and taking on tough challenges, not just winning kind of, gimme super fights or something like that. This was a really hard tournament at BJJ Stars, and Meregali shined. So, and
taking out Gustavo Batista, who's the current middle heavyweight world champion, taking out Lucas Hulk Barboza, who's the previous year's world champion. Those are two extremely highly ranked guys, very, very tough, obviously. And it goes back to the question, right, Reed, about how winning the absolute division doesn't automatically make you pound for pound. It certainly puts you up there in the estimations of becoming pound for pound #1. But if the absolute was the only measure of success in that, then that would completely shut out every single lightweight guy in the game, right?
For sure, definitely. I think the absolute division definitely is a big indicator, of course, but it's where we can see a lot of these guys in different weight classes go up head to head. But definitely Meregali, we're big fans of him here. We've been following for a while, and it's impossible not to be impressed with what he does, and especially over the weekend. We know very well how tough Gustavo Batista is. Gustavo Batista has had also an incredible year. I can't remember really too many guys beating him this year.
I can't remember him getting submitted.
Yeah, and getting submitted. So Gustavo is definitely, he's had an incredible year. So for Meregali to go out there and do what he did against a guy of that caliber and a guy of Hulk's caliber as well. We all know how tough Hulk is. I think he's maybe 4 or 5 or something in the pound for pound list. But taking out both those guys in there, you also had Leandro Lowe in that tournament, so it was a very, very tough tournament. I've definitely no problem with him being the number one guy. I think it puts a target on his back, so that's cool.
As if he didn't have one big enough as it is, right? Because there's definitely no love lost for Meregali. He's definitely he's upset a lot of people along the way. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the fact that Meregali wins, and that he does so, and he's quite vocal, afterwards. A lot of people don't like that. They think it's disrespectful. But it's also, a lot of it as well is his association with his coach, Mario Hayes. A lot of people hate Mario Hayes, and they just despise everything about him on principle, because he's also a very vocal kind of guy, and, they basically ruffle a lot of feathers, let's put it that way. So
but I do think that it's tough for Meregali, I think, to really. I think it'll be tough for Meregali to really adopt the number one best gi player, in jiu-jitsu without having beaten Buchecha. Because Buchecha is the guy, and he has been the top of our rankings, for a while, for good reason. Yeah. He is the absolute champion. He's the ultra heavyweight champion. I guess what they fought in 2018? They fought in 2018?
Meregali's never fought Buchecha.
No, they fought in the Absolute, and it was a great match.
I'm sorry, they did. Yeah, 2018 Worlds. No, you're right.
Buchecha did kind of
semi-final. Yeah, that's
that
right.
And it was 2018. Is that right?
But hey, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because you remember that match, and you remember there was that moment, the restart with the half guard position, and there was a huge kind of question mark about the grips that they used to restart, and Buchecha restarted with these specific set of grips that enabled him to immediately sweep, and kind of it was a big turning point for the match. But yeah, that was a great match, though.
I'd love to run it back.
Exactly, which is why I want to see that.
There's only one way to definitively really find out, who's better, and I think that's put those two guys on the mats together and combate. Let's see how it goes.
Let's do it.
So hopefully, 2020 is just around the corner. Gi season. We're getting ready for the gi season. I feel like. We had a good run in the no-gi, but I feel like always after a good no-gi season, people are that much more excited about a gi season. So hopefully when that gi season comes around, all these guys throw down. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and like one of our commenters said here in the live chat, it's not just that Meregali wins, it's how he wins as well, right? And that is key. Like I just checked the stats real quick, and that's only the second time in his black belt career that Gustavo Batista has ever been submitted. That's a big deal. That guy you really see him in a bad position, let alone see him get tapped out. So it's incredible.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last week with Gordon, and he was complimentary of some of the things
of a little bromance going on there on Instagram lately, right?
What is going on there? They do seem like they're going back and forth a little bit.
Gordon being extremely complimentary of Meregali's jiu-jitsu, and that's rare because, Gordon's usually the first one to point out about how much other people suck. He's like, oh yeah, that guy doesn't know a single jiu-jitsu move and blah 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 blah. So
yeah, they have a little kinship.
I mean, Gordon said it best, I think, at least succinctly. He said, Meregali calls a shot and then he goes out and kills people, and Gordon respects that. He loves a person that's confident but can back it up, and I think everyone likes that. It's when people are cocky and can't back it up where some feelings are hurt, and not everyone responds the same way.
But let me ask you guys this. Which match would you like to see more? Meregali versus Buchecha or Meregali versus Keenan?
Three-way. Just put them all three on the mat at the same time and see.
Last man standing.
Man, that's a tough question. honestly, I don't have a preference. Give me either.
You want to see both?
Give me
I want to
either.
see both.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see that Buchecha match. We saw that a year ago or a year and a half ago now, almost at World Championships, and it was 5-2 for Buchecha. He scored. It was a sweep each, and then he scored a pass as well. And I'd love to see that happen again for sure. But the Keenan match was like, it was such a wild match. That one worm guard sweep that earned Keenan the 2 points was the decisive factor. But Meregali had like 10 advantages, was just going after him with submission after submission.
But you're also forgetting the in the Buchecha Meregali match where Buchecha had like the knee on neck.
I didn't forget
on
that.
Meregali,
No, I didn't forget that.
And then Buchecha was like pointing at Leandro like in the corner. And he was like talking to Leandro while the match was still going on.
That's like a signature move. Buchecha addressing the crowd like mid match.
No, when he says that I do my talking on the mats, he literally
means it. He literally means it. Yeah. Because Buchecha doesn't like saying anything on camera, right? We've interviewed him
certainly
times.
a lot different than Gordon per se.
Yeah, but, I mean, Buchecha is quite the opposite. He says it over and over and over. He's like, I don't like to talk in interviews. I don't like to talk shit. I don't like to say anything. It's like, I just want to let my jiu-jitsu do the talking. And when he does, wow, he says a lot, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll answer your question, though. I think I'm a little bit more interested in the Keenan rematch.
Intrigued to see what would happen again, huh?
Yeah, just because that one was so technical, and it was like, I feel like it was like 5 matches in one match, just because there were so many things that happened, I feel like, and it was like the way Keenan broke it down and everything, you really got to see exactly what happened at every moment of the match. So I'd really love to see how that one runs back again.
Well, we may see that happen again soon. We're not sure, to be honest, because we're still waiting for the rest of the names to be announced. But this leads nicely into a little discussion about an upcoming event that we have on FloGrappling, November 23rd in Seoul, in South Korea. Chase, you're going to be taking that long flight over to South Korea, and you're going to be going to the Spider BJJ Championship Final, right?
That's right. It's my third time in Korea, second time at a Spider event. And if you guys haven't watched any of these, they are absolutely phenomenal. It's some of the best production I've ever seen. A lot of money on the line this time. There's $100,000 per division. There are 2 divisions. We got 100 kilos and below. And
wait. I think that is the biggest payday that we've ever heard of in jiu-jitsu. It's $250,000 prize fund for only 2 black belt divisions. They've got an 8-man lightweight under 76 and a heavyweight under 100 kilos, and in total they're giving away $250,000.
Pretty nice, right?
Let's do it.
Very nice.
The cast hasn't been fully revealed yet, but we have guys like Meregali, Keenan, Rodolfo have all been sort of hinted at.
All right, let's bring it up. Let's see who are the names. Who have we got? We got them right here. Good. So for the under 76, we've got Mateus Gabriel, Edwin Najmi, Levi Jones-Leary, Jamil Hill, Jonathan Alves, and Mateus Lutz.
Man, what a
hell of a lineup.
Yeah, just like a fresh lineup of new, exciting, young, the guys who are like mixing it up. Levi, Edwin, Mateus Gabriel, of course, world champion. Jamil, of course, world champion. So I love that list. It's not even everybody there, but already that's like gets me pumped.
That is huge. Yeah, you're right. You've got 2 IBJJF world champions. Levi, of course, European and Pan champion this year as well. Jonathan Alves is kind of a new black belt, right? But he's already been making waves.
Brown belt world champion. Levi's a brown belt world
champion. Don't
Spider
forget,
champ.
He is Spider champ last year. And as a brown belt at Spider, he beat both Paolo Miao and Jamil Hill. So he has some pretty big wins. Mateus Lutz, the only colored belt in that division right now. That's a good thing about Spider. They mix it up, right? Even in the qualifiers, they even have purple belts. The purple, brown, and black together. But Mateus is a brown belt fighting through. And Edwin Najmi, I mean, we always love watching Edwin go, right? It's so exciting. And then check this out. This is the heavyweight lineup so far. Bear in mind, this is only we only got 6 guys in each division right now, because Spider they're in the process of rolling out the names. They're rolling out these guys every day. They're announcing another 4 names: 2 guys in the lightweight, 2 guys in the heavyweight. So we'll find out a couple more names soon. But in the in the under 100 kilogram division, we've got Kainan Duarte, Leandro Lowe, Anderson Muniz, Tim Spriggs, Claudio Calasanz, and the news dropped today, the return of the man himself, Rodolfo Vieira.
Sick.
Goosebumps.
Super sick. Love that Rodolfo. He's
In the gi.
He's got his MMA career that's doing really well. Just had a win in the UFC, but love that he's coming back and doing some more grappling matches and things like that. 100K can bring out the best in a lot of us. So
all right, you guys want to know something crazy about Rodolfo? So
sure.
After he won ADCC in 2015, he basically retired from grappling, semi-retired. He took a hiatus to focus on his MMA career. He actually had to take care, had a back surgery, and then went into MMA, where he's 6-0 and signed with the UFC. It's going pretty well for him, right? The last time we saw him compete in the gi was he came back last year, 2018, to compete in an invitational event called the Black Belt CBD, and he beat Muhammad Ali, who was the world champion that year, and he also beat Kit Dale. So that was the first time that he put on the gi since 2014.
Wow.
So this is only the second time we've seen Rodolfo in the gi in 5 years. And he's coming back to go up against Leandro Lo, Spriggs, Calasanz, and the 2019 IBJJF world champion, the 2019 ADCC champion, you name it. This guy champion everything. World Pro, European, Pan, etc., etc., etc. Kaynan Duarte.
Kynan's
So sick.
good.
Kaynan versus Rodolfo is like dream match of the
Let's
year.
run it.
It
Let's
is
run
literally-
Kaynan versus Rodolfo. Let's do it.
It's literally, it's a fantasy match. That's the kind of thing that you could take a guy from one generation and another and put them together. You'd think a match like that would almost never happen. It could happen November 23rd at Spider BJJ.
Cross our fingers, huh?
Just a month away from today, basically. So
And let's not forget,
Couple more names still to be added there too.
there are 2 more names to be added in that one and 2 more names to be added in the under 76. And, we've heard, let's say, some rumors about the names that could be added to this. And we have a rough idea, but they're still not confirmed. So we'll hold off on saying anything yet. But
I mean, we did transition from talking about Keenan Meregali into this, but we don't know for sure if they're going to.
We don't know for sure.
Chase already said Keenan and Meregali.
I'm not going to say anything for sure.
That's how we started, but
Potentially,
keep moving.
these divisions could get even spicier. They could get even better. But let's talk about another significant match in this under 100 kilogram division as well, because I want to see this badly. I want to see the rematch here, Kaynan versus Leandro. It was the final of the IBJJF heavyweight division, the world championships, and Kaynan beat Leandro for the world title, the gold medal. And we're not accustomed to seeing Leandro lose. He's definitely hasn't had the same level of performances this year and last that he's been accustomed to. Multiple time world champion. For Kaynan to come in and to take that title, very, very big moment. Do you think that Leandro could come back and reassert himself as the number one?
Man, I would say that's not the dominant storyline going into the event, but as a longtime fan of Leandro, one of the first guys I got to know when I started training, that would be the craziest and kind of epic storyline if he came back and beat Rodolfo, beat Kaynan, won $100 grand. I was like, I still got it, bitches.
Yeah, I love, Leandro's always fun to watch, and definitely I think beating Leandro still means a lot. So I definitely would love to see Kaynan and him run it back. That was the first time they had ever fought. It's always a little different, right? Than when they come back for the rematch. I think Leandro will be more prepared for exactly what Kaynan brings to the table, but hard to pick against Kaynan. Man, he's so good.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we figured that ADCC would be the toughest test of his career, and he showed that,
With flying colors,
he
man.
really he did. He passed it with flying colors. You're right.
Yeah.
And then came back a week later to face Nick Rodriguez, the guy
Just
that he
in
faced in the
case,
final. Just
you
in
thought
case,
that,
yeah.
he wasn't the real deal.
If you had any doubts whatsoever, it took him like 2 minutes and 15 seconds to silence it with a submission win over Nick Rodriguez. I believe that's the first guy to ever tap Nick Rodriguez out.
I think it's the first guy to tap him. Yeah.
That's incredible.
18 months into his jiu-jitsu career.
Because I feel bad for Kaynan because he put in all that work this year. He won Euros, Pans, World Pro, Worlds, Marianas Open, ADCC, bunch of super fights, putting in non-stop work. The guy is a workhorse. He competes so much. He won multiple Grand Slams. He competed in King of Mats. He did so much.
Yeah, he had the small little slip up in Brasileiros, but like that was basically he just competed every tournament out there.
He went from competing in Abu Dhabi, won the world champ with a World Pro there, and then 5 days later was in Brazil to compete at the Brazilian Nationals, which is one of the toughest tournaments in the world, and he got submitted by Meregali. But that was like on a, what kind
Another
of
one I
turnaround
want to
is
see
that,
again
right?
too. Meregali versus Kaynan.
But Kaynan, I feel like even all that, it's almost like the loss to Lachlan overshadowed his accomplishment in winning ADCC, right? Because he won ADCC, and then the first round match in the absolute division, he gets taken out by a guy that lost first round in the 77 kilogram division.
I disagree. I don't think it took anything away from Kynan, but it certainly elevated Lachlan. Like, that's how I'm thinking about it. Lachlan,
no doubt.
But I mean, Kynan's story didn't change for me at all. Like, he won ADCC, he beat Buchecha, looked great against Nicky Rod and so on. Lachlan has a separate story of taking out these monsters, and I don't know. It didn't detract anything from Kynan for me.
I think Kynan still walks away a legend from that tournament, especially winning the over 99, taking out Buchecha. Like, he's got a lot of accomplishments there. That I think
he had to be the smallest guy in that division.
Yeah,
one of.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look too small, but
compared to Orlando, though, and Nicky Rod and those guys, yeah.
I know he still looked pretty beefy. Yeah,
but
no, man. I mean, Kynan, a Kynan Leandro rematch would be insane. I'd love to see Kynan go up against somebody like Rodolfo Vieira in the gi. I think that would be a freaking animal match. That would just be two just intense physical grapplers going at it. I think that's a mouth-watering match right there.
Tim Spriggs never in a boring match. So he's up there, and
also a Spider winner. He won the qualifier
earlier
this year.
Let's not sleep on that. He
beating
beat Calasanz in the final,
and Mateus Denise and Hudson Mateus. It was probably a performance of a lifetime for Tim Spriggs in some ways, because all those guys are huge names in the sport, and Tim came through and kind of looked phenomenal. So,
and Anderson Muniz is the only brown belt in this division. We mentioned about how Mateus Lutz is the brown belt in the lightweight division. Anderson Muniz is the only colored belt in this under 100 kilogram division. Something of a wild card, shall we say, right?
Man, Anderson is going to be a problem for a lot of these guys, I think. When we've watched him at purple belt, brown belt now, and I think he could really spell a lot of trouble for any one of those guys, to be honest. I mean, obviously, he's still a brown belt, he's still on the come up, but man, I think a couple of years too. Once he graduates to black belt, he's going to give a lot of guys problems.
He won Worlds this year at brown belt. I think took double gold.
No, his brother took double gold. Eric Muniz took double gold. Yeah,
those Munizes, they keep
They're
tricking
easy to confuse. Yeah,
but he did also do extremely well in Spider. Anderson holds a bronze medal match over Mateus Denise, and then he beat Roberto Jimenez earlier in that same tournament.
Yeah, he lost to Kynan in that tournament by if I remember correctly, he was maybe even winning on advantages, and Kynan hit this sick throw in the last 10 seconds or something of the match, like this huge kind of almost like a Tayatoshi style, but with the underhook. It was like a beautiful hip throw. He's stepping across the legs and just sent Anderson flying. So that's another rematch I'd like to see right there. Anderson, for people who haven't seen him compete, Anderson's what, 6'4", maybe 6'5"?
He's huge. Yeah, absolutely.
He's definitely a big guy.
He's really, really tall, very, very lanky. And he loves the lasso hook, as you can imagine. And he puts that lasso in, and guys are just stuck.
And they're good at that. They're good at that worm guard stuff, that lapel guard stuff too.
They mess around with that, right? Yeah. Him and his brother Eric, for those who don't know, there's actually three of them. There's Alex Muniz as well. Alex is a middleweight. I believe Eric usually does heavyweight, and Anderson does super heavyweight, although they kind of can change division sometimes. But they say that Eric is actually he's definitely, if you look at the results as well, he's the more consistent. He won double gold at Europeans this year, double gold at Pans this year, double gold at Brazilian Nationals this year, and double gold at Worlds this year. I believe he's the only brown belt at Grand Slam.
Pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
He's all right.
Yeah, Eric Muniz is one. These Muniz brothers, they're both training at Alliance's Dream Art project in Sao Paulo now as well. And
producing a lot of sick killers out there for sure.
Well, keep an eye on FloGrappling to see the further announcements, because we've got 2 more guys to come in the 100 kilogram and 2 more guys to come in the under 76, and I'm sure that it'll only add to the interest of that right there. Guys, there's one other big thing that happened this week that we have to talk about, and that is last night we had the live premiere, world first of the Mikey Musumeci documentary. Reed, kick us off. What was that about?
Absolutely. Guys, first of all, thank you guys for tuning in, watching, making this our most successful new guard ever. Mikey Musumeci went out there and premiered it last night. Been getting a lot of great feedback, so just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who watched it, who took the time to check it out. Thank you guys for watching. Really, really appreciate that. Definitely let us know what you thought about it. But, man, I don't know. I've kind of said a lot about this Mikey movie. Very excited to see it go out and have a life of its own outside. Outside these dark rooms that I've been watching it in for a while, and just excited to see it. I feel like people are digging it. People are into it, and talked to Mikey today. He was really excited about it, how it came out, and everything like that. So,
man, I'm glad, because I got to say, such an interesting and unique story. The only American to become a 3-time IBJJF black belt world champion.
I told Mikey, man, it's incredible to be a fly on the wall, to be kind of just off to the side holding the camera for some of these just life-changing moments.
Well, you were there for every one of those. Mm-hmm. Every one of those black belt world championships that he won. You were right there from Matt's side, right?
Yeah. After each one, I ran over and got a quick little interview, at least after every one of his world championship wins. I told him, just witnessing the things that Mikey's been able to accomplish and just his perspective, the type of personality that he has. He's a guy that he's impossible not to root for. He has such a great attitude on jiu-jitsu, a real positive attitude, and it was special, a really special thing. Always, definitely, the end of the documentary gets me always a little emotional, but seeing the way, him and Tammy interact with each other, and there's kind of like fulfillment of a lifelong dream these guys have been working towards standing on the podium together.
They did it
since they were 4 or 5 years old. And to see them kind of realize this dream and to capture them realizing this dream, it was
first time
incredible.
We ever saw a black belt brother and sister win the world championship in the same year.
Yeah.
Right? That is phenomenal.
And it couldn't have happened to two better people, two harder workers. Two people who represent the sport of jiu-jitsu, as well as anybody else. These two, Tammy and Mikey, are two of the best people I think we've met in this sport. So
yeah, they've been super welcoming throughout all of our content and stuff. We've been working with them for years. I had one criticism of the film though as I was watching it.
Go on.
So Tammy says at one point in her interview, Mikey, you look at him, he wasn't going to be that great. People are like, he's not going to do much. And then we roll clips of Mikey just killing kids over and over. I'm like, who's saying Mikey's not going to be great? He looks amazing. He's like 7 years old out there.
When he's a kid, 7 years old, he looks like a little Hercules, doesn't he?
Exactly. Who's saying this kid's not going to be great?
Yeah, he looked like a beast back in the day. Yeah,
that was awesome. I've been waiting 6 months to hear Mikey tell me that speech about the disembodied experience, out-of-body experience at Worlds, because Reed told me about this. Reed came back from the shoot of March, and he was like, man, this interview with Mikey was insane, and we got all this great stuff, and he had this moment where he talks about leaving his body and watching the match from the stands, and I wanted to hear Mikey tell that story, and
it's so cool, right? About how he's like blacked out in the middle of his match, and he just kind of comes back around, and he's got the guy's back, and is like, oh, look at that, and he's like watching himself from the stands.
That'd be a hard way to do jiu-jitsu. That'd be really confusing.
I gotta say though, I really enjoyed that part of the documentary. I mean, I enjoyed the whole thing, but I enjoyed that part of the documentary a lot, where he's talking about the kind of the interplay between the conscious and the subconscious mind in jiu-jitsu, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people maybe overlook in jiu-jitsu, is that it's an extremely physical art. Of course, it's grappling. You gotta grab and pull and push and twist and so on, and it's physically very demanding. And we know that jiu-jitsu is a very cerebral activity, and it's called physical chess for a reason. But there is an inner game to jiu-jitsu, right? And I think that the top guys in the sport, a lot of them have this edge because they're able to do something internally, something in their own minds that sets them apart from the competition. And it's not just going out there and being stronger, it's not just being faster, it's not just having a better strategy for the techniques that are in front of you, but it's about putting yourself into, going to a place mentally where you're able to operate at the highest level. And I think what Mikey's description of that moment there is kind of what people talk about, is like the flow state, right? About unconsciously performing to the highest level. It's like you hear about this in other activities. You hear it about, for example, the surfer catching the wave, about how it's that mindless moment of just being completely in control of your body, but almost watching it from the outside. Everything's just happens naturally and you just ride the wave off. Or the musician who, after years and years of deliberate practice, sits down and they play this incredibly complicated, complex piece of music perfectly without hitting a single bad note. But they're not actually thinking about doing it while they do it. It just flows from within. And it's almost like what Mikey was talking about in his World Championship performance. It's almost like that he was able to put himself in this optimal state of performance where the jiu-jitsu just came out and it won him those matches. And then when he wins, that's when, boom, back down to earth, and that he runs over the cow and he's like, I did it! I did it!
No, I think watching that part, over and over and over again, it makes a lot of... At first, I was just like so enamored with like the... with just how big he was talking, and just these crazy things that I was like, whoa, this is intense. But listening to him talk about it over and over again, as I watched the clips and stuff, it really just made a lot more sense to me. It really started to make like perfect sense, actually, and especially because, competition can be a really super intense, stressful, thing. Your heart's beating fast. I've especially a world championship final. The stress, the anxiety.
I can't even imagine.
The intensity of the moment. A lot of times competing, even just on small local tournaments, it has this kind of surreal feeling to it sometimes. Where you have this kind of hyper focus and the adrenaline's kicking and everything.
Such a weird come down for the amateur when they're done competing. Like for myself, like when I leave a tournament, I feel like I've left like a concert, something like a rave. I don't know. It's like the weirdest feeling. You don't really feel like you're all there.
Yeah, you're like
exactly.
Exhilarated and a little bit spaced, and
And what you're talking about, that maybe a lot of these guys have an edge, and I think that I think it's collectively everybody feels that, and you have to try to deal with it. You have to try to find a way to deal with the things that your mind is doing, and the self doubt or whatever you have running through your head. You have to deal with those emotions or those negative things or whatever. You have to deal with the moment in some way. And hearing Mikey, be like, no, I literally shut off my mind, and I took it very literally at first, but just, I don't know, hearing him talk about it over and over, it made a lot more sense to me as we went on.
I learned a lot from that documentary, I have to say, and one of the biggest things I also took away from it was how hard it hit him. When he won his first world championships and he was booed by the crowd, and that was a really heartbreaking moment because, for anybody to be in that position and to get booed by the crowd is it's got to suck, right? And it's as simple as that. It must be a really tough moment to deal with, but I don't think I appreciated how much it affected Mikey, at the time, and not just in the moment, but for months and months afterwards. And I mean, what do you think, Reed? Because he said there that he was literally close to quitting jiu-jitsu. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, I think this is a really pivotal moment in the film and in Mikey's career. Obviously you're winning the world championships, black belt world championships. He's worked his entire life for it. It's supposed to be the happiest moment of his life. The rug kind of gets pulled out from underneath him. And I think it has a lot to do with accomplishing your goals and then kind of being like, oh wait, now what's next? Or accomplishing your goals and maybe them not being as fulfilling as you thought they would once you reached those goals. I think that happens to a lot of athletes, happens to a lot of people where they finally achieve the greatness or they achieve the thing they've been working their entire life for, and it's not quite as fulfilling as maybe they expected it to be or they wanted it to be. So maybe it's a little bit of that, but I definitely,
Well, to have such a negative association with what should be such a special memory as well, it could leave a really bad taste in your mouth, because Mikey has dedicated almost his entire life to this. He's been training since he was like 4 years of age, and to become a black belt world champion at such a young age after winning every single other belt color along the way, for his first black belt world title, for him to get booed by the crowd. And the reasons for him being booed are still kind of unclear, right? Still not really sure why. Was it because he was repping AOJ? Was it because he beat Meow? So who knows is the answer. But yeah, I'm just glad that he was able to.
The world can be a raucous crowd sometimes.
They get pretty rowdy.
It can be a rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
I don't think. Obviously it affected Mikey quite a bit, and I think he just needed to find that passion again, and luckily for all of us, he was able to rekindle and go on and win 2 more world titles. He's only 23 years old. People,
that's the best way to wash the bad taste out of your mouth. Go back and win it, not just once, but twice more.
Be in prime position to do it for the next 10 years or more. I mean,
Exactly.
he's so young.
I mean, if he wants
Crazy.
to, right? I kind of, at this point in time, I struggle to see anybody coming in and offering a real tough challenge to Mikey. I mean, there are a few guys coming through the divisions. You know, you've got a couple of standout guys. Taliesin Suarez is one. You know, he's just got his black belt this year after being one of the most dominant color belts we've ever seen, and he's going to be a really nice addition to the black belt roosterweight rankings, or roosterweight division next year, I should say. Jonas Andrade, who's also from Cicero Costa Stroke Unity, competes a lot as a light feather, but he also cuts down to rooster as well for the big tournaments. He could be another guy. So there are a few of them I feel that could go in there and offer Mikey something, and these are also very, very young athletes as well. But we'll see, right?
Yeah, that's the best part about this. I keep saying that this is sort of chapter 1 of Mikey's career here. You know, in 10 years we'll see, you know, how many world titles he's racked up and what the rest of Mikey's story unfolds, because we definitely know it's going to continue, and I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of great moments to come that we can capture as well. So who knows, maybe we'll see chapter 2 pretty soon.
I hope so. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think it's a fine time to call it right there, but thanks for joining us once again. It's been a really cool episode today. I gotta say, man, I'm so excited. Spider BJJ's coming up. We got a bunch of Fight to Wins coming up. We got Fight to Win this weekend with Talita Ankar versus Catherine Perret in the main event. We've also got Izaki Bayense versus Dante Leon. That's a crazy match. I'm super excited for. Urban Santos is back on Fight to Win in a couple of weeks in November 2nd in Denver, I believe. We've got the Long Beach Open on November 3rd. We've got Spider BJJ on November 23rd. We've got Third Coast Grappling in December. We've got Nogi World Championships. We just got event after event after event after event over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we all these great events, but also on FloGrappling, we got some killer content. Never have we had this much great content coming out on FloGrappling. These great videos like Mikey Musumeci. We got a bunch more planned in the works, so definitely don't sleep on this content we got coming out either. It's going to be some sick stuff.
It's never been a better time
Yep.
to be a FloGrappling subscriber.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks very much for joining us once again, and we'll see you next time.